All right, everybody. Stocks by the numbers. Welcome back. And I know we actually spoke about this just a few days ago along with AMD. I said, in my opinion, might be a little more beneficial to look at the backup players, the second, third, fourth kind of tech companies in line that are going to benefit from this potential big surge in demand in AI, and the fact that Nvidia also currently has a market cap of whatever, around 3.5 trillion. You could very well make the argument that a lot of that potential is already factored into the value of Nvidia. So of course, chances are it's probably going to slowly keep churning along. However, I'm sure you can appreciate the fact that other companies like SMCI and AMD may have more upside potential now throughout 2025 and 2026 than Nvidia, that is already, in my opinion, heavily overinflated. But I just wanted to speak about some trend lines and just a quick little technical update here on SMCI. Again, in my opinion, this is why I like to draw out my trend lines. Of course, as we ran up, we had the stop essentially right there at the trend line, and then we pulled up, hit this trend line exactly, began to reject, and you can see here, I'll zoom in, and you can see how, look, see how we just hung out right around this trend line. And you can see that we opened right there at 32.97, essentially right at the trend line. We go up a little bit, we go back down below the trend line, and we happen to close technically just below my trend line here. So that's obviously why I like trend lines in general. But also, in my opinion, after going on such a surge with a lot of this money coming in, I have a feeling that Wall Street probably saw that it was buy heavy and it was call heavy. So now we have people taking profits, and in my opinion, I think they're going to beat it up again. And I'm looking for a potential retracement right around here to this 20-day moving average, this next trend line. As you see, we may be looking at around $27 a share. So I'm just throwing that out there. Stock 32.64, down almost 2.5 points today. Again, it was technically a light day. Usually there's light volume the week of and the day after Thanksgiving. Stock took almost a 7% hit today, down a couple of more cents after hours. Market cap 19 billion. Again, they brought in almost 6 billion in revenue just for last quarter. We got a PE down here of about 17.5. In my opinion, you guys already know how I feel about this one. I think long term, this can get back to the highs it was, over $100, and even conservatively, $150, $180, $200 a share. My personal price target still remains at over $200 a share. I remained bullish the whole time the stock was selling off. As it started to surge and everyone missed the bottom and saw how much they could have made, that's when all the videos started to come out talking about SMCI. Is it great? What do we see in the technicals? Is it worth a buy here? Blah, blah, blah. And that's literally what I always tell you guys all the time, is that after the move happens, that's when everyone wants to talk about it. That's when all the Johnny-come-latelys come out of the woodwork, and now they want to try to hop the fence. But in my opinion, it is probably going to pull back here. And another reason why I love trend lines. So if you recall, look, this trend line went from the bottom of June 26, 2023, connecting to that bottom right there, September 21st, 2023. And then you can see here, let me zoom in a little bit. You can see how it cuts across the bottom bodies of those candles, right? And that was our triangle, and that's where we took the next leg higher on the break up and out. And you can see, again, that is this bottom trend line, which is right where the stock stopped. So if we're expecting a pullback to around this moving average, maybe around those lower trend lines, what we can now do is, check this out, we can go from here, low 2131, all right, 2131, and look, if I go across the bottoms, the absolute bottoms, look at that. So we have our 20-day moving average right there. We have that bottom trend line of the previous symmetrical triangle right there at around, this would be, like 27.25. And again, we have these other trend lines here at like 26.90 and potentially 26.5. But in my opinion, it doesn't hit this blue trend line. It could potentially come back down to here and maybe here of slight sub 27, because I feel it's going to meet up with this 20-day moving average curling upward, and then I feel we're going to bounce back up here, back to north of $30 a share. So in the immediate short term, that's personally what I'm expecting from SMCI here in the technicals. But again, this is just my opinion. Some people may feel it, it's going to bounce back up now after dropping. So, I mean, that can happen as well. As I said, in my opinion, this stock was set to be a powerhouse, was guiding and forecasting that the next couple of years they were going to see just an explosive growth in revenue and, of course, in profits, right? That would translate to as well. And, of course, they ran into that short seller report and then the potential delisting off the NASDAQ. Then they submitted the plan. That's what made the stock kind of rally over 100%, back up to almost 40. And now the last couple of days, we have some profit taking. But in the news, let's look at the news real quick, because I don't want to make this like a 40-minute video. But SMCI is a wild November. Yeah, they took care of, apparently they cut ties here. Supermicro's ended loan agreements with 2 banks as recent amendments to those pacts made them more burdensome. The move frees up some cash, which of course is good, and removes restrictions tied to the embattled server makers' late filing of audited financial statements. On November 20th, Supermicro, quote, prepaid in full and terminated its obligations under a loan agreement with Cathay Bank. It said in a filing with the SEC late Tuesday. It did the same with the loan and security agreement with Bank of America. Life got difficult. Yeah, short seller. Delay filing. See, they always have to reiterate the negatives. Just remember that. I mean, I understand as well, but it's literally every article. That's what I mean. If we get news Monday morning that, they spent, $100 million to acquire some other small cap stock, guaranteed in that article, they would update you about the acquisition and then remind you about the short seller report and everything like that. So that's why, in my opinion, again, I remained bullish as well, because the fact that it was literally ready to fly and pop to the moon, got added to the S&P, and then all of a sudden we have an issue and, it's bad, you probably shouldn't touch it. And this is what I mean. This is why I say, in my opinion, if you can see the writing on the wall and just kind of maintain your vision for the long-term growth, then again, all of this in between is just noise if you really think about it. And as we said, people like to mention, oh, they got delisted off the NASDAQ before a couple of years ago. Right. And then they continued to grow, got back on the NASDAQ, grew even more, got on the S&P, grew even more. That's why I said, in my opinion, if they're slated to do the type of business that they're forecasting, and they're already doing, again, getting a shout out on NVIDIA earnings just recently, stating them as, one of their main partners in this whole AI venture, then, as I said, whether they're on the NASDAQ or the New York or the OTC, then chances are the stock is going to inevitably, in my opinion, continue to climb up and up over the years. But again, they always have to just reissue these negatives. And it's funny, too, also, someone mentioned Dell in the Discord. Again, Discord... I keep an expired link in the description to keep the bots out. Discord is free for you guys to join. And if you want a fresh Discord link, I'll drop one to you. Just request one in the comments. But it's funny. Someone in the Discord kept mentioning Dell. And then we see Dell just reported earnings and actually came up light in revenue. And they took like a 12-13% hit on the day. Now, Dell, we know, is, also probably going to benefit from this big AI surge and boom. However, the fact that you constantly, isn't it funny, the fact that you constantly heard that Dell could pick up the crumbs from the NVIDIA SMCI fallout, and then we end up running into a light quarter on revenue and the stock takes a 13% hit. So that's why, if you look at what's kind of going on, for Dell, they need SMCI to run into an issue. Because before all of this started, all of this crap started to hit the fan back in August, SMCI, in my eyes, was going to eat Dell's lunch. But, again, that's why I laugh sometimes about what is said in some of these articles. And that's why, again, it's going to come with more experience for you if you're relatively new over the last year or two in the market. again, I've been I've been tracking markets and getting involved in finance. What did I say? Like 2012 or something like that, 2013, whenever it was. So, I've been reading articles and watching stocks and looking at charts and I always had CNBC on, and I would hear one way, the analysts they would bring on would speak about the situation, but then it would turn out to be a different result, like a couple of months later. So that's why I kind of, developed my own way to kind of fan and sort through some of this terminology in some of these articles. But again, we know it's the only thing that separates you from me is time and experience. But overall, in my opinion, again, going back to my original point, I just find it funny how everyone was pumping Dell. They could benefit from SMCI. And then all of a sudden, Dell misses earnings, takes a big hit. That's why I'm saying Dell needs SMCI to fail. And in my opinion, no matter what Dell does, it probably won't affect SMCI. So that's why they're not even, so to speak. But, yep, okay, yeah, auditor resigned. November 15th, pact between Cathay. Halfway through the contemplated original 5-year term. That meant the company was no longer bound to the agreement stipulation, and that it keep at least $150 million in cash. The company's Bank of America loan pack dates to April 2018, when a syndicate of banks led by Bank of America Merrill Lynch provided $250 million, a 60% increase in borrowing capacity for Supermicro at the time. Why? Because the company was growing. So again, the more business you're going to do, the more revenue you're going to generate, the more profits you're going to generate off of said revenue, the more credit we can give you. That credit facility could expand borrowing capacity to $400 million under certain conditions. Separately, on July 19th, Supermicro reached $500 million loan agreement with lenders, of which Bank of America was the administrative agent. Proceeds for the loan used for working capital. Supermicro periodically updated the 2018 B of A agreement, just as it did with Cathay. An amendment on September 27 extended the deadline. Added $70 million block to available borrowing. An amendment to the July term loan also on September 27th made the same change, to the deadline for the financials, but it also required the company to prepay $250 million of the term loans outstanding. Supermicro prepaid in full and terminated the July term loan pact on November 1st. 3 weeks later, the April 2018 agreement ended too. So I feel that now with the Trump administration coming in and rates potentially kind of regulating back down towards where they were, I feel like SMCI is just, again, they're prepaying this debt as we see. They're just taking care of their obligations. They're exiting these partnerships with these specific two lenders. And now they're probably going to get, in my opinion, a more favorable credit line with another, financial institution. So that's me. That's how I'm looking at it. And again, people in the immediate short term, they want to talk about the pullback in profitability. They want to talk about the miss in revenue. And I appreciate the fact that these technically are negatives. But again, we really beat the crap out of the stock, bringing it down roughly 90% from the highs it hit. And it went from $120+ down to $17 and hit new lows. So that's why I felt, again, that a lot of these negatives were not only priced in, but overly priced in, which is why I was saying the whole time it was chunking down, 30s, 20s. I was saying, in my opinion, I still like it. The business is still there. And unless we hear that they're not allowed to do business anymore, or again, if we lose multiple contracts and the business drops back down to 1.2 billion in revenue a quarter instead of 6 or 7 billion, then we can talk about a different situation. Until that happens, in my opinion, I personally still really like it. But again, that's just me. This is just my opinion. It's not financial advice. Whatever you do with this information is entirely your own prerogative. We're reading. Oh, God, Kramer, what's he saying? Reddit is fabulous. Okay. Wait, hold on. Did he mention? Kramer said, quote, accounting irregularities equals sell when asked about SMCI. And this was only a few days ago, again, after the company completely got beaten up, hit new lows, and then had a slight bounce up. Kramer says, accounting irregularities equal sell. Well, we all know about the quote-unquote Kramer curse, so again, what was the other stock? It was SoundHound, right? We were watching it in the symmetrical triangle. We were approaching the apex. Myself and a lot of you were bullish on Sound. You felt it was going to pop up instead of break down. And what was it, like a day or two right before we hit the apex? We had the article of Kramer saying, oh, I think SoundHound's a meme stock. Bah, bah, bah. And then what? The stock pops up. Right? We had people in Discord flipping out who made, 4, 5, 6 figures in profit. And now, again, the stock was up today, got above $9 a share. So that's why, again, you can't take everyone, just at their word, at face value. So, like I said, this again was basically the vibe around SMCI, even when it dropped into the 20s. As it was still hitting lows at 1817, people were still saying to sell it. And then the stock instantly rebounded back to almost 40. And now it seems like, some negatives are past. But again, technically they just submitted the plan, so we have to wait and see. But again, if the stock hangs out here between 30 and 40, and then we hear, oh yeah, the plan's all right, they're going to stay on the NASDAQ. Like, you know what I mean? It's going to pop right back up in my eyes, back to 50, 60. And then we fast forward here to February, if they were able to beat these earnings. And now, boom, now you're going to what? You're going to have to pop them back up to 70 and change. That's why a lot of people in the comments were saying, this could be a very good opportunity. They were excited here in the short term, but they were even looking out in the longer term saying, yeah, no, by this time next year, stock might be able to get back to, $80, $100 plus where it was. So a lot of you see value here. It's not just me. Ended the agreements with the banks. Again, in my opinion, I may be predicting too optimistically, but in my opinion, I have a feeling that ending these loan agreements with their current banks, I think may work out even better for SMCI down the road. And we'll have to wait and see. We did just look at the stock. What is this? Supermicro, fueled by increased investor interest in landmark developments in its AI and data center strategy. One main reason for the surge, the announcement of securing a new move enabling the company to comply with NASDAQ listing. Yep. This step mitigated concerns about potential delisting, boosting market confidence in the firm's governance. The company's latest innovations in supporting AI computations and energy-efficient data centers continue to draw interest from global tech leaders. Supermicro's focus on sustainability and high-performance computing aligns with market trends, strengthening its competitive advantage in the rapidly evolving technology sector. Recent results highlight a growing trend towards AI solutions and advanced computing platforms, which are reshaping the high-performance IT supply chain. Partnerships with major tech companies emphasize Supermicro's strategic role in driving digital transformation and fostering sustainable growth opportunities. Despite its strong position, analysts have noted concerns about the rapid pace of technological innovation and its implications for balanced growth. However, Supermicro's strategic initiatives and ability to meet critical industry needs make it a formidable player in global markets. So this is why, again, we kind of knew what this company was set up for over the next couple of years. And again, almost similar to like we said with Fubo. If Fubo was on the up and up, again, we started looking at it at around $1 a share. Stock almost hit $4 on 2 separate occasions. So technically, that was a big winner for us. And now what? Now the stock has calmed down, isn't really doing much, because how long ago did we hear about this joint venture and then the antitrust lawsuit? And everyone's just going to sit on their hands probably for a year and a half and wait for all of that to clear. And then hopefully Fubo will be on the up and up. But again, I say the same thing with SMCI. We spiked straight up and then began consolidating down here into a channel. And then, of course, we run into August when we started getting some bad news. So that's why, again, the way SMCI was running up and the way they were guiding and forecasting moving forward, if this news didn't come out about the Hindenburg report, then you had a very good chance to channel and then pop up and hit even higher highs. Because again, if I know again they got some negative headlines, but if we're pumping all of the other tech companies, all these quantum stocks, everything across the board, then again, if we didn't run into this issue, SMCI probably would be up here by now, in my opinion. But that's how I feel. I still like it. That's just me. Yeah. We're reading. Nike and Supermicro. In my opinion, I would be very hesitant about buying any footwear, apparel companies that produce their products overseas and then ship them in, because we may see a big beef up in tariffs now moving forward. But yeah, this was back from the last time we looked at the stock. Okay, not much going on. But I did want to point out again, basically, how these trend lines look, why I draw so many trend lines, and of course about the potential not only meet up with this new trend line we just drew, but of course the potential pullback to the 20-day moving average that is about to curl up. And that's why we might see like a 5-point drop here back into the 27s. So we'll see what happens Monday, Tuesday. Stock charts real quick, I'll let you go. And we can see also we ran up right to the trend line, right to the moving average. Look, tested it 3 days in a row and then rejected today with the drop down. You could also see that the mid-Bollinger Band dropped down and has now flattened and started to come back up with this recent surge. So the mid-Bollinger Band will probably be right around the 20-day moving average, it looks like, of the very high 26s, potentially low 27s. So we'll see that, and then a potential bounce. And also, if the stock comes down and then bounces, what you're going to start to see over the next week or two is this bottom Bollinger Band now curl up and get back on the screen and come up and begin to make new potential support levels for the bounces on the way up. So we'll keep an eye out for that. MACD again crossed a couple of weeks, about a week ago, when we got the news of the plan on the NASDAQ. We crossed, we went up. But yeah, that's why, another big drop down, another day or two, we come back. The MACD might pull down even and then bounce up. I really don't think, in my opinion, it should cross back to the downside. RSI middle of the road here at 51. Again, we were well oversold. We ran up to about 60 and just pulled back to about 50 right now. So that's why you see another drop down. You might see RSI pull back to like 42, 43, and then boom, we may have that pop back up and try to retest the trend lines and the 50-day moving average. Here on the weekly, again, we really pumped the stock up, and then we completely beat it up over the long-term time frame, bringing it right down to that 30 benchmark on the weekly, and then that's when the bounce came. So that's why, again, we may, after this big pop, and now we drop a little bit, maybe like halfway of this candle. That's why I'm looking maybe like 27-ish. And then boom, we try to bounce back up to the high 30s, potentially 40 plus. And you can see also that we had the big sell-off, and then we had the big rebound, and you can see that the bottom Bollinger Band flattened and then popped up with the stock. So if we don't pull back too much and we keep slowly stepping over the next couple of months, this bottom Bollinger Band is going to come up here. This top one is going to continue to pull back. You're going to have the tightening and then a potential pop and surge back up even higher. So we'll see, but I know now this has become one that practically everyone is keeping an eye on. So, yeah, I don't care. We can, do a quick tech update on this every couple of days, once a week if you guys want. I don't care. But usually it's been, because we looked at it in the past, anytime these companies report some big news, I usually try to jump on and, I try to do a quick update for you guys. So, yeah, if any news comes out, obviously we'll update, but if not, yeah, we could look at it, whatever, once a week, twice a week, and we can try to see, how some of the technicals look. But in my opinion, I think that's what it does here over the short term. RSI about 40 on the weekly. So again, we popped up, we stepped down a little bit. Now we technically could pop up and get back to around 50 on the weekly, which is why I'm looking for 40 plus over maybe the next couple of weeks. And then again, who knows? If, I understand they still got the DOJ investigation, but if it looks like, as I said, they're not going to get too penalized, maybe they have to pay a fine or something. I feel like the main concern was losing the place on the NASDAQ. And now that they submitted the plan, that's why I feel like we may be on the up and up. And also remember, in a little over 30 days, the ball's going to drop. And then we're going to move into January, and you're going to have the potential January effect. So you might see a lot of people who might just roll the dice and say, you know what, SMCI was on the up and up. They got hit with some stuff, but the stock is down, still 70% from the highs. They were growing like a weed. So I'm going to step in here after the ball drops at, 35, 42 a share. We're going to build a position, and, a year later, the stock could be back at 120, and they're going to look like rock stars. Right? We also had news of, I forgot who it was, but someone just took a stake in SMCI recently. We mentioned it in the last video. They took like a 5% stake or something. So, was that SMCI? That was SMCI, right? I think it was. Anyway, that's pretty much what I have to say here. And if we look at the pivot points again real quick, yeah, you could see 40, 45, and the stock hit what, like 39, 23. But again, we had that trend line to run into, so we couldn't run straight up to that point. And we can also see, in my opinion, I don't think it gets back to the low 20s. I think it bounces at that 26, that high 26, low 27 mark. And then we have this pivot point at 35.65. That's why I'm expecting another drop here. And then a pop back up to the pivot point and the 50-day moving average and the trend line that we have as well. So that's what I'm expecting. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments section, but that's pretty much it, so I'll end it there. Once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually pretty quick to reply. Thumbs up algorithm helps me get more eyes on the channel, and of course, subscribe to the channel. That is our handshake agreement. That is how you help me help you. But of course, more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are rocky, they're volatile, and they are very uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your weekend.